is air cleaner. As you can see, we've already removed the old assembly, cleaned everything up, so she's all ready now to install. The old one was my figure machine unit, which it served me well, but time for something fresh. So here we go. Now look at that beauty. Now, apparently with this one as well, there's no oiling, so that is a massive bonus. It doesn't need a range sock either. So that's all the components now laid out. All we've got to do is see where the hell they go. Okay, well, let's start. So the first thing we need to do on the backing plate is just put a little bit of grease where the O-rings will sit. That's just to hold the O-rings in position. Make sure they don't slip out on the install. Okay. Turn it over, and you can see again. Just a little smear just to hold them in place. And obviously that's just to stop those falling out when you tip the backing plate up ready for install. Flip that over. And again. You only need a tiny little bit, a little smear of grease, not a massive blob, or else you'll start blocking things up. It just looks a mess. Now this is rubber grease as well, so obviously it won't harm your O-rings. So just be careful of what grease you use. And the last part of the O-rings is just in the backing plate spacers. We'll just pop those in like that. Okay, and now we're ready for the gaskets on the faceplate, throttle body. Again, we're just going to put a little tiny smear of grease just around the backing plate, and you will notice that with your gaskets you have a steel gasket which goes in between the other two like that. Okay, and those three go together, and then they will go onto the backing plate. And the next step, as you can see now, I've just located those bolts, which are 1/4 20 by 3/4 bolts, cap heads, into the back of the backing plate and through to the gasket. What I've already done as well, I've already put a slight smear of grease just over the throttle body plate, so that'll just help with the gaskets to locate them. So we're just going to screw this in loose now. But before we do screw that to the throttle body, remember we just need a little touch of Loctite on the back of those, stop those rattling loose. Okay, so we've just put that in loose. We need to do the next step. Just a little side thought before we go any further. If you're using this on a carburetted body, you will only use the one gasket. On the EFI models we used all three, so you've got the spacer, the gasket and the spacer, that's all three, just to clear that up. Okay, right, the breather bolts. In this kit you get 4 breather bolts, which can be quite confusing because now's the time when you think, which ones do I use? Okay, so for 1991 for 2003 you use the breather bolts with the large hole. Now for 2004 to present, these are the ones we want to use on our install. Okay. Right, okay, just remember now that with these, you can see we've already pre-installed the O-ring. On the back of here is the other O-ring. So when you install these, make sure you've got the flat face against here, against that O-ring, and then the O-ring against the head. Okay, and before we put these banjo bolts in, you can see we just put a little bit of Loctite on there and a little smear of grease just around the inside of the head. Okay, for this next bit we use a 3/16, I believe, yeah, it's a 3/16 key for those and 1/4 inch for those. If I can find the key, just 2 secs. It's better. So whenever you're tightening any bolt in sequence, if you've got opposites like this, you want to do one opposite and so forth, and just keep nipping those up until you feel it start to bite. Make sure your gap's closing up at the back. Okay, we'll check those in a minute. Now we've got to tighten up the banjos up against here. Exactly the same as before. So let's get our 1/4 key. Remember, these have got Loctite in, you don't want these rattling loose. So again, find the bite. Now these use a closed breather system. Very, very clever. Looks quite neat as well, I think. Okay, got those tight. We'll check these ones now to the throttle body. You just feel that little bit of tension on there, so you know that that now is nipped up. A little bit more on that one. Obviously this is going to seal and stop air coming in from the side, so he's got to be secure. Okay, I'm happy with that. One thing I like about this is the way this is designed to draw the air in. It's almost like his little own Venturi. Sucks it in. Lovely design, that. These are the banjo covers. Not the best light in here, but there you go, drop one. Okay, there we go. Now ready for the filter. I love the little engraving there. Arlen ness. So we know that has to be that way up. So now the fun bit. Let's line these holes up. Same again with this on the back of those. I think we put too much on that one, but we'll wipe some off. A little bit of Loctite on those. Make sure they don't rattle loose. Okay, so the final part of the install. Just tighten these up. Again, just go opposite sides. Okay, so there we have it. So let's start her up and see how she sucks that air. Definitely a big sucker. Thanks for watching.